Hi, and welcome to Tremco Live, where we're socially distant but technically connected. I'm Marcy Tyler, the Director of Building Science for Tremco, and one of your hosts here today.
And I'm Paul Hugenbaum. I'm your other host. I'm the president of Tremco Construction Products with Marcy, a fine collection of companies, brands, facilities, products, systems, and of course, most of all, our people.
And of course, our people. As always, we're very excited to get up in front of you each and every Friday to talk to you about design challenges, talk to you about systems, solutions, and last month we talked about versus. We compared technology.
And the lion and the lamb.
Yes, we talked about the lion and the lamb.
So what did we end up with at the end?
We ended up with a heck of a lion here in Cleveland, at least. So let us know what your weather ended up exiting March with, because we got hit with a nice little snowstorm.
Well, it'll be in the 60s on the weekend.
Yes, the lovely spring fluctuations, which brings us to thinking about technologies too, because if you're thinking about the fluctuations in temperature, you need to have something that's very elastic that can handle those fluctuations.
Well, and that can handle inclement weather, because if you had started a project in Cleveland early this week, you'd have had to get through a little bit of snow to keep working.
Yeah, I think we went through a lot of different types of weather this week. A little bit of rain, lots of sun, and snow.
Yeah.
Snow.
And with what you're presenting on today, we could have worked the entire time.
We could have. It would have been perfect. I was telling Paul that that the other day I left my car out and it got covered in snow, and I even put the snow brush away. And I think that's what happened. I put the snow brush away, Paul.
You're not supposed to do that until May 1st.
I know.
So you're arrested by a whole month.
It might be my reason. It could be my fault that we had that snowstorm. So it was a great way to wake up on April 1st to a April Fool's Day. Just kidding. It's not going to be sunny in Cleveland. It's going to snow a lot. So in the month of April, we're going to look at time-saving technologies. And the reason being is the whole idea of springing into action. So with spring around the corner, we want to spring into action and look at our time-saving technologies.
Of which we have so many.
Yes. Yes.
So today's, Marcy.
Yes. Today we're going to specifically talk about connectivity. Now last month when we talked in the versus area, we talked a lot about different types of systems and comparing different technologies. So we didn't give a lot of love to our connectivity, and we know how critical that is. So we wanted to kick off April talking about connectivity and specifically one of our systems, and it is this simple seal solution system that we want to kick it off with. Paul, I always talk to you about connections and transitions, so I know this will be pretty exciting for us to share.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, I know you'll share some time studies, but the other thing that we don't maybe talk a lot about is what I call calendar time. So I think today will be exciting because there's certainly significant time savings.
Right.
But the ability to compress a project that might actually take a couple of years into a couple of months is a huge benefit to all the building occupants who really are going to have little or no disruption as opposed to perhaps several years.
And that's a key part that we'll definitely talk about. And I think the other thing that we look at is a lot of times these are hero products or systems, right? Because they come in or they're chosen to help speed up that construction cycle if it's kind of gotten off whack a little.
Yeah, or if the budget, not uncommon, right? But often when we get involved, the budget's in real trouble. They're also heroes because there's so really little room in the budget. These products can save an enormous amount of money.
And no matter whatever size your project is, if you use the simple seal solution to solve some challenges or connecting a curtain wall to an existing structure, if it solves some challenges for you, please reach out and let me know. I'll definitely ask you guys again at the end of today's broadcast, but we definitely want to understand it. Now, I think there's a variety of different reasons why your project could be delayed, and we just listed a few up there. Weather, right? We talked about that already. Weather can make a significant delay on your project.
Yeah, and I think a key thing on weather is there's a lot of products and systems that really need a continuous number of days, will often case 3 to 5 days of good weather. And I think the systems we'll be profiling really can take advantage of a day or even half a day or 2 hours. So systems that need those 3 to 5 days, that's going to be hard to do in a lot of parts of the country.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the subsequent weeks in April will definitely be able to demonstrate all of the different ways that we can help with that. You might be waiting for equipment. It might be at a different job site, and that can delay you. Overbooked crews or lack of having labor availability.
We've been having crew capacity issues, Marcy, for more and more, right? And we think it's just going to continue, right, as the trades age, if you will, along with me and you.
Yeah, yes. And project changes, which Paul mentioned already, right? There's a lot of different things that could happen on that project schedule, or construction changes, design changes, and then just general waiting for your product to arrive, whatever it may be. We want to make sure that our technologies speed up what would normally or conventionally be done, so that if you're experiencing these things, which we can't avoid, we can help speed up when you are able to get there.
Yeah. The one we see a lot, Marcy, is people think, well, I'll be getting to that part of the project in July or August, but they don't until it's November.
Yeah.
And the system requires certain temperature, right, or can't handle the dew or the frost that you get during that time of year. So that a lot of these systems will give you a lot of flexibility about, typically as you get into the colder months, that you can just continue to work. And we've seen as a best practice, sometimes there's alternate bids put in now. One system for good weather, different system for bad weather.
Yeah, they've experienced that enough that they're addressing it up front, so they have that capability. Another reason why we like to look at connections and transitions is because they are abundant.
Shockingly abundant. I like your picture there with the XOR 430. If we just counted in that one picture alone, Marcy, I bet you we could get to 1,000.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Really fast. So there's really tens of thousands of connections or penetrations on even relatively modest structures.
Yeah, absolutely. And those connections are the workhorses for your water barrier, right? They're going to make that transition from one area to another, and they're going to go around pipe penetration. So if it's up on that roof, they're critical. You don't want water getting into your structure. If they're all over that building, like in the Nadura ICF building in the center, you're going to want to make sure you handled it. Same thing with the new brick picture, the planter. It's going to be buried with dirt and vegetation, and your facade covers up a majority of these things. You can't get back in there to address it. So let's do it right the first time.
That's a great point, Marcy. The vast majority of these connections are out of sight, out of mind, and extremely expensive to get back to.
Exactly. And to figure out where it's happening, because there's thousands of areas where it could happen. So which one's the culprit? Let's make sure it's none of them.
Yeah, I've sort of a morbid expression for that. The corpse is often found a long ways from where it was killed. Well, you have so many different pressures in a building, Marcy, that water can actually get in at one place and just be found, hundreds of feet away from where it actually originated, and you'll probably never figure out where it came in.
So lots of excellent points of why we should utilize something like the Simple Seal solution. So let's take a quick look at this video talking all about it.
At Tremco, we're very excited to discuss our building enclosure restoration program. And one of our most innovative products in that program is our Simple Seal.
What we wanted to do was a side-by-side comparison of traditional restoration methods for joints that have failed versus our proposed method using Simple Seal.
So this was just a time study to show how you can use the product. It's very good for restoration. This one is more simulating a failed sealant joint. So instead of tear out and recaulk, which takes a long time, this is basically a bandage over top, but it is absolutely permanent.
One of the key advantages to specifying Simple Seal on your projects is the ease of installation. On our most recent tested system, we used an applicator here locally in Cleveland that never used the product before, and his comments following the installation were,
it's very efficient, and it's going to save a whole lot of time for guys not having to cut out joints. They're going to be able to get up to that wall or application, whatever it may be, and they're going to be able to start installing this product right away.
He came in, he's a professional installer. It's what he does by trade, and he cut out, scraped, prepped, recaulked one joint, and we timed that. Then we had him do the same with the other wall, same type of wall, with the Simple Seal, and he was amazed at how quickly he was able to complete that job. Just an easy, quick way to do it with better results.
So I love that video, Paul. It's short, it's simple, but the guy didn't have experience, right? So a lot of times people are like, I've never used it before. What kind of, time frame does it take for me to get comfortable and get used to using it? That guy did it right away.
Yeah, and this is a great example, Marcy. That's a really sensitive substrate. So the aesthetic of when you have to cut a joint out and replace it,
right.
We've got a lot of great pictures over the years. You're really often not going to be able to not disturb the edges and get a nice clean look. So Simple Seal also gives you, I think, a great aesthetic benefit. And I know you're going to show a little bit later our ability to match the substrate, which is really pretty good, especially.
Yep, very special here. So love the time savings that they mentioned here. Now, if you missed it, what they talked about was the time savings of what we call a storefront assembly. So this is just a tear out and recaulk versus Simple Seal. What they saw here was about an 18% reduction in time. Now, if this guy got more comfortable with it and used it more often, he probably could save even more time.
Yeah, one of the other things it's been mentioned to me often enough, a lot of times the material in those joints too can be considered hazardous material.
Right.
So if you have a site that has to be set up for hazardous material, I think that the time savings would be 5 to 1 just because of the setup and tear down.
Exactly. And if we look at what we consider a typical tear out and recaulk of a joint, we're getting about 42% reduction in time. So a little different, and this is where you're factoring in the sensitive substrates. You're factoring in, do you have to grind it? Or, as you mentioned, even more time savings if there is something concerning about the product that was in there that we need to address from that perspective. So lots of ability from a time saving perspective with the Simple Seal system. We've got 2 different technologies, Paul, right? We've got our silicone technology, Spectrum Simple Seal, and recently we launched the Dymonic Simple Seal. This is great because now you can coat over that membrane, where with the silicones, the only thing that sticks to silicones, Paul?
Silicone. Well, we're working on it.
Yes, exactly. So I think this gives you a great opportunity if you did want to use something that you were going to coat over with a wall coating, if you wanted to paint over it, if you have a coating application in a parking garage and you want to use something flexible, you can go ahead and use this Dymonic Simple Seal. It's also used a lot in air barrier applications where you're making different types of transitions. So that's the difference in those technologies, that one will accept that installation of a coating, a membrane, a paint, whatever it may be. The silicone, Spectrum Silicone Simple Seal is something you need to then go with another silicone afterwards. Lots of great attributes here, as we already talked about from a savings perspective, the quick installation, less guesswork. And when I talk about that, it's the points of concern, right, Paul? If you had to cut out and recaulk, you've got a lot of things you're going to be concerned about. What was that sealant? How well was it adhered? Is it going to damage the substrate? Do I need to grind it? And then when I put the sealant back in, I got to make sure the backer rod's in there appropriately at the right depth. Do I got the right width to depth ratio? I can go on and on and on.
Yeah, it's just a significantly more challenging work. I don't want to call it unsafe, but it's much more challenging than using Simple Seal.
And we know it's done every single day. So we know that it can be done with sealants. We just have this new solution if you're looking for that time savings, a quicker installation, and it can really be used in so many different types of applications. And because you're only looking at 2 sealant beads and applying that product, as you saw in that video, the predictable outcomes there as well.
Yeah, and I like your little cartridges example on the left there, Marcy. What's going on there?
So when we did this time study and we did a lot of research, we're actually sitting up in Harbor Springs where we make Simple Seal. A variety of us were up there and we're like, how do we demonstrate how much less waste you would have if you're just using a little bit of silicone versus a lot of silicone if you had to fill that joint? And so that's where we came up with, if you're doing there's a whole guide on this, but if you're doing a certain amount of square footage or a certain amount of length, you could save a significant amount of cartridges. So comparing that jobs, it was 47,500 less cartridges, which is stacked end to end, 34 Empire State Buildings.
Okay,
so
a lot of cartridges.
A lot of cartridges. We also talk a lot about with this technology how innovative it is. and the knotty tear perspective that it has. Now, this video that I'm going to show you demonstrates Spectrum 1, our silicone sealant. That knotty tear perspective is also in our Spectrum Simple Seal. So people always want to ask you, what does knotty tear mean? So we're going to show you.
Yeah, there's a funny story behind this that I think for, I don't know, Marcy, as long as I've been around Tremco, we tried to figure this out, knotty tear. And we knew when we got together with the founder of the technology, it was going to be a great day because he was going to tell us how we figured this out. And it's one of these great, you know the 3M Post-it stories of they tried to create a great adhesive and they created something not so good with Post-its. It's really one of those stories. I can't reveal it here, but it was like, all right, we'd have gone another 100 years and never figured that out because he had such a moment. I have to point out, Marcy, I think I've found your first spelling mistake, one per year. So,
one per year, oh no.
I think our audience will notice that propagate might be propagate.
Well, maybe we were just so excited about knotty tear, so we had to put the O in it because it's wow.
So yeah, well, and it is a real wow. It is a real wow that knotty tear and lack of propagation. Yeah, because that's one of the Achilles heels, if you will, of a typical silicone.
Well, and you like to talk about failure mode, right? This is what you would consider elegant failure, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's controlled, we can go back, we can fix it.
Yeah. So you got a little video for us?
Yeah. So they put a tear in it right where that arrow was, and it is stretching and stretching and stretching, and it does not continue. So there you go. It's showing it cut. Pulling on it, putting it into the Instron, and significant movement there.
Yeah. Again, any other silicone gasket, that would just zipper.
Exactly. So it's really a great key feature. And actually, it secured a job that we featured in the past in California where they were doing a seismic joint application, and they used the Spectrum Simple Seal in order to detail the joints that were going to potentially see seismic movement, and having something that's going to be that robust and not have issues was definitely a critical on that list of performance for that project. So pretty interesting there. So that's that whole idea of not zippering, that elegant failure that we can go back and we can repair. We also have a video that shows us repairing that. So lots of information that we can always share on these technologies, and it's very easy to repair. You just put a little bit of sealant and a little patch.
It's also easy to just have an extra roll. We often leave extra roll of material on the site, on the job site. So if you need to cut something out and just replace it, it's very easy.
When we were meeting with property managers, before we walk into a building, we'll notice what color the metal joinery is on that structure. And we mentioned to them, these come in custom colors and they come in standard colors, and the standard colors mimic different metals like bronze, aluminized coatings. And they could have that roll handy and they could do metal joinery all over their structure.
Yeah, they're used to, I guess they call it leak chasing. We'll hear that word in a later video. But they're just used to, after a big rain event, especially if there's high winds, they're just chasing leaks all day. And they really love the idea of just having a roll of this. And once that fixes it, you're not chasing a leak in that area again.
Exactly. Yep. Speaking of leak chasing, this is the project where Paul had mentioned that. That's exactly what they talk about in this video. They talk all about leak chasing. This is a large tower, and they had to continuously go around and address these leaks until the day that they decided to, let's not do that anymore. Let's figure out a solution. And this is one of the solutions that go glass to glass, so up and over the mullion. Brings it back to being air and water tight, and I love it because it was part of that collaboration where we worked with High Rise Repair and we worked with the BECS, our friends at BECS, to come up with a solution. Great successful project here. This case study is also found on our Tremco YouTube. Great video if you want to check that out, talking all about that they're not chasing leaks anymore, even after a hurricane went through. No more damage and no more issues.
Yeah, this is a great story, Marcy, because this is, a very high class A type building.
Yeah.
And yet, if you're chasing leaks and getting leaks in, it's kind of kind of hard to hold your value and keep your tenants.
Absolutely. So tenant retention was important, and they certainly achieved it by being able to provide this flexible solution. And we consider this a hybrid solution, right? So we have so many different options that we went with this Spectrum Restoration Overlay, which we featured in the past, and combined it with the Spectrum Simple Seal to really give a nice customized solution for this project. This next one is another project we really like talking about, and this is Point of France in Edina, Minnesota. This is a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, I think the thing I always love the most about the story is by the time we got involved, they were already well down the road of that. Really the only option was replacement, which would have been a several-year project, as you note on the screen there, $15+ million.
Yeah.
And I think when we came in, it was an incredible wow moment that there was actually an alternative.
Exactly. And not only an alternative, quicker, right? Cheaper, and taking that performance of something that was working, the windows were fine, getting it back to being air and watertight.
And most important, no tenant disruption.
Yes, exactly.
They had to remove, floor by floor. And this is another great example we mentioned earlier about needing that 3 to 5 day window. Mm-hmm. And again, this is, you can put a crew out on that swing stage and you can work half a day if the rains come in, and you can work through all kinds of weather. And I guess they probably cleaned the windows while they were at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's it was an interesting application, and this is why the Simple Seal works so well, is we had 3 different joints, different substrates on either side. We were able to go kind of up and over, not having to remove anything, not disrupting what was there, and just absolutely fixing the issue, which was leaking air and water.
Yeah, if they had replaced the windows, they'd have been right back here another 20 years from now, they'd have been back to the same situation because those joints will fail. That's what they do. And so this is just infinitely maintainable. I think the other thing that's cool is we just can color match and texture match for them. They chose this. Yeah. So they really got the aesthetic upgrade from that top picture to that bottom picture. It was really their choice. What color do you want? Texture. We could have matched the building, but they ended up, they said, no, we would like a flat texture. And it's really a great visual upgrade.
And I love it because once again, it's that coordination and collaboration, utilizing a design professional to help make sure everything's structurally sound, and noting that it was air and water leakage was the issue, and then coming up with a designed solution for this project. So let's take a look at this one.
Hi, Johnbauer here with Tremco Commercial Sealants and Waterproofing on the site of the Point of France in Edina, Minnesota. Some of the challenges we encountered in here were substrate. The substrate is a very rough stucco finish, coated with an elastomeric paint.
Because the jam joints were a little small, or they didn't have enough metal for your 1/4-inch adhesion. And then at the head section, and even the head so horizontal, there's like 3 joints that we're covering up.
Some of the joints were really, really wide. The person who went through and did some replacement caulking on it, made the joints that only needed to be about 1/4 to 1/2 inch, made them about 4 inches. So the Simple Seal was nice to go over all joints.
I guess I just like silicones, period. And I know that the Simple Seal act just as well or better than regular liquid silicone, so I like the 20-year.
I mean, since it's a redo, trying to get it down to a good material where you've got a good bond. This has elastomeric paint on it, so you got that challenge. You've got multiple different kinds of caulking. You got that challenge, and I do believe the head of the window system had a total of like 3 joints. So that's a lot of time to clean up. And this part, all we had to do was we V'd out a channel, put fresh caulking in there, so we got a good bead, and then we adhered the Simple Seal to the substrates.
So simple.
I think even you and I could do it.
I know, I think so.
Well, I know you could.
I think so. It's funny, don't look at any of the sealant work at my house. It's not good. I'm a theoretical
It must be watertight.
Yes, it's watertight. It just doesn't look very good. I love, how this solved so many of their challenges on the structure. I have to point out, which I do when I see this video, I love Justin's last name.
I do too. I don't know if the audience noticed it, but
I don't know.
But sell now.
I know. I just think that's such a great last name, you know, especially if he was in sales. You sell now, sell now. So, and I loved this video. Obviously it is longer. There's a lot more information that you can see on it, as a lot of our case study videos have, but that animation is always a key part that we like to be able to really show how simple the installation is, but also to make sure everyone's very clear on how it is installed.
Yeah, Marcy, there's tens of thousands of buildings out there today that are in the age of that complex, you know, whether it's 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And they all think they're facing this dilemma of needing to replace their windows and disrupt their occupants at enormous cost. And they don't. Simple Seal's ready to serve.
Absolutely. It's about being able to bring some more useful life to your structure and to your windows by bringing it back to being air and watertight.
Yeah, and it should be able to last as long as the integrity of the window system is there. They should be able to last the life of the building.
Absolutely. Speaking with BECS that worked on the University Tower, that's exactly what they'll go out and do. A lot of times that individual is already thinking about replacement. When they go out there, they do an investigation to try to see what kind of useful life is still there. And then they'll give us a call and we'll work on that solution together.
Yeah, again, another great landfill story there, right? I think
Absolutely.
the rule of thumb you and I like to use is about 40% of all landfill waste in this country is what we call C&D waste, construction and demolition, and this is a great solution
Absolutely.
to not put stuff in a landfill.
And in order to make sure that we can meet all of the different needs of the substrate, we talked a little bit about this already, but we really do focus on the customizability of this system.
Yeah, like on your upper left, you can see the textured part. I think if you were 6 feet off that building, Marcy, I don't know that you could pick out that there was Simple Seal sitting on that joint. The color match and the texture match is uncanny.
Yes. And we came up with that utilizing the Spectrum Simple Seal solution so that we could blend in. A lot of times what people will use is maybe on the floor area or maybe on the entryway, they'll do the cut out and the recalc for whatever reason. As they start to go up that structure, or it's maybe more difficult to access, they're going to use something like this, or you can get it to blend in. And once again, we've got a variety of different color options. So we have standard colors and lots of customized options. I just included 2 different sheets there that are great resources that are on our website. If you are looking at that customizable perspective, whether it's color or texture, and we have a variety of different textures, but what I really like is the notches.
Yeah, that allows for it to fold easily.
Yeah.
And we can really, I guess, what those sheets, we can get them to 14 inches, Marcy?
Yeah, there's variation. So if you're looking at Dymonic Simple Seal, you're not going to do the textures, you're not going to do the colors, and you can only go 6 inches with that one because it's more of a transition. It's going to be coated over. When you look at this Spectrum Simple Seal, you can go much wider, and I believe it is 14 inches. Yeah. And it really gives you that customizable ability to go for wide areas. And that's another thing, if we're looking at joints 2 inches or greater, we're not going to want to put a sealant in there. You're going to have to do a dual bead. You're going to want to use something like this Simple Seal product or something like our Will Seal expansion joint products, because that you have a more difficult area to now be able to detail.
And I like your picture there on the upper right on that quadrant where you use the Thermalock glass to glass. Mm-hmm. And that's just a great example of where you're just taking everything out of play. Yeah. And you're going to get a great seal and a great nice bite on that glass, and you just took everything out of play in the middle. Whatever's going on that mullion or on that piece of it.
You'll be able to handle it. So if you're thinking about if you had a flat sheet, right, a flat sheet's going to want to continue to kind of go flat. So if you sealed it down, it's going to want to still go back up. If you had that notch in there, it just gives you that natural ability to handle all those turns. And that's why it's great for an inside corner, outside corner, or as that example, going glass to glass right up and over a mullion. We have a variety of different solutions as it comes to like mullions, if pressure bar plates, if you have different fasteners you need to accommodate for. This is a certain geometer, but our restoration overlay system, we can actually customize it and go right and include an area for each of those fasteners in a pressure bar.
And this explains why, Marcy, when you and I travel or in public spaces, we're always looking at atriums.
Yes, we're always looking at atrium.
And thinking we could fix that. Yeah. And of course, the building owner's thinking, my gosh, to replace that would be awful.
Yes.
And we're like, you don't need to replace it, you just need simple.
Just need simple seal. Well, that was a great journey that we took today, going through all the different opportunities and challenges that Simple Seal can solve. And it's definitely something to spring into action with in this spring as you're looking at different types of improvements for your structure. And at the same time, it's going to help you save time.
With that, Marcy, next week the sun will be bright and shiny. It will be sunny and 70 in Cleveland.
It will be.
I know it.
No more cold weather. So once again, if you want to join the conversation, you can always email me at mtyler@tremcoinc.com. Bring me your challenges, bring me your case studies. We'd love to feature you on this program.
With that, see you next week. Be safe.
Thank you.